This webinar is being recorded. The recording of the webinar is going to be made available online, both on YouTube and as well in our Interreg website. Please keep the microphone muted when not speaking. This is mainly affecting the speakers since the participants don't have the option, but you do have the option to use the Q&A box to write your questions, and we will also be monitoring the chat in case there's any interesting question there that we can pick up. And once that we have gone through the formalities, we can go a little bit deeper on e-smartec and this webinar. To understand a little bit why are we organizing this webinar series, we need to go just not too deep, but a little bit into our project, e-smartec in a nutshell. This project is part of the Interreg Europe program. It's a project with 9 partners, 6 of which are regions. The West Midlands regions, the Venlo region, the state of Hessen, the Lazio region, the Bratislava self-governing region, and the region of Central Macedonia. And we all know, especially if you are working in the sustainable transport, that one of the main objectives that cities and regions face today is how to achieve this modal shift towards more sustainable mobility alternatives. And the e-smartec objective is really to enhance citizen and stakeholder engagement in sustainable urban mobility planning to help achieve this shift, but particularly our approach is through targeted marketing techniques. And to achieve this aim, this objective, the project was divided in 2 phases. Phase 1 started in 2019 and finishing today. It's focused in the exchange of experience. Here, e-smartec partners really focused on learning, co-planning, co-designing engagement methods from best practices around Europe. And then the key from this phase is that these identified methods and techniques were coupled with marketing techniques to really achieve an interregional learning experience. And the goal was really to improve the implementation of the identified methods and the techniques. And for this, e-smartec partners work on different tools, such as the collection of the good practices that are published and available in our website, a handbook of engagement methods and marketing techniques linked and applied to sustainable urban mobility planning, going through the more than famous now S2P cycle. And also as part of this learning process, there were some capacity building activities, but I won't go into depth on this because this is actually the topic of our second webinar taking place on Wednesday at the same time at 11. The phase 2 of the project is actually starting tomorrow. I'm also not going to go too much in detail about this, just to mention that this phase is about the implementation of the action plans that were developed by each of the regions, including the methods and techniques that were more suited for their particularities in the region. And really, once again, with the main objective of achieving this shift towards sustainable mobility activities and also increase the participation in mobility planning. But we will know about this phase 2 more actually at the end of the year. Today, we're really focusing on phase 1. We have wonderful speakers from the e-smartec partners to bring some of their experiences on the citizen and stakeholder engagement, on the community engagement. We have brought you today 4 of the e-smartec partners. First, we'll start with Maria Morfulaki from the Center of Research and Technology Hellas, really giving us an introduction into this good practice collection. And then we have actually the experiences from 3 of the regions, with Eva Malichova from the Bratislava region, Dieter Scheppers from Venlo, and Juliana Pipola from the West Midlands region. So without further ado, I will stop sharing my screen while I allow Dr. Maria Morfulaki to share her screen. So Dr. Maria Morfulaki is the coordinator actually of the e-smartec project. She's working as a researcher at CERTH since 2001. She's a transportation engineer as well as the head of the laboratory of the sustainable mobility at HIT. And today, as I said, she's going to bring us a little bit of knowledge into this good practice collection in the phase 1 of the project. So Maria, the stage is all yours.
Thank you very much. I hope that you can see my screen. Thank you very much for the introduction and, of course, for organizing as communication partner this webinar and all the relevant dissemination exploitation events. So my name is Maria Marfoulaki. I'm coordinating on behalf of CERTH, the Hellenic Institute of Transport, the e-smartec project. And I'm here to present you the learning from the e-smartec region's experience on engagement and co-planning. One of the most important, I can say, activities of the Esmartec project, that's the Interreg Europe project, was to collect, to select and to analyze the good practices within Interreg Europe and Esmartec.
Sorry to interrupt, Maria. Can
yes.
you please put it in the display settings at the top to swap we still see the views with the notes?
Okay.
So at the top menu in display setting there, swap.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. So for these initiatives, there are good practices that can be methodologies, project or processes carried out under one of the program topics. For us, it's low carbon economy. And a good practice must be able to prove that it was successful and it has tangible results. And of course, it has the potential for learning and for inspiration to transfer this experience to the other regions. But let's focus on Esmartec objectives and see what was considered as good practices within Esmartec context. So for us, good practice was initiatives of sustainability awareness raising and participatory planning boosting. So it can be campaigns or some enabling tools. Or some participatory planning meetings, task forces, roundtable events, or general interactive learning environments. Now, we have collected a lot of good practices, and for doing the analysis and, of course, for the evaluation if the specific good practices are addressing all the objectives and the scope of what in Esmartec, what we meant by the good practice, let's say, term, we have created a specific description table when we had a short summary of and information for the good practices, of the problem that each practices addressed and the context which triggered the introduction of the practice, the elements of innovation, if the practice considered innovative and the reasons for considering innovative, the regulatory framework, what was the laws, the rules, or the regulatory references which applied in the context, the public or private driven, if it was public or private driven, that was just a yes or no. The resources, something which is very, very important, if the amount of funding and the financial resources that were used, needed for this good practices, even if it was for funding or for human resources, was high or not. Some further information linked to the good practices, some key keywords, and of course some images. That was the first, let's say, part of the good practice. Then we needed some data for the analysis of transferability. As you can understand, if I have a good practice which cannot be transferred to another region easily, let's say, then maybe it's useless for the project. So we analyze the potential for learning or transfer. why this good practices has this potential and can be interesting to other regions, to be adapted by the other regions. What were the prerequisites for the adoption or implementation of each of the good practices? If there are specific elements or conditions that must be presented in order to be able to implement this good practice. Some challenges encountered and tips for a successful adoption. This is, let's say, the knowledge of the owners, specific tips that might be considered relevant and very important for the successful adoption of the good practice by another region. That all information had a lot to the transferability. And of course, the results achieved and the problems encountered. So what are the main evidence of success? The results that were achieved by the specific good practice. So why every practice considered as good, with some factual evidence that demonstrates this success or even the failure. Some externalities. If the partner who described and promoted this and has already used these good practices, if they measure, observe, or perceive some costs or benefits that affected other critical sectors. And of course, something very important, especially for our project, is the level of citizens and stakeholders' engagement. If the citizens or the stakeholders are active actors or only the users, and how its target group was engaged by technology, consultation, or by other ways and means. We asked from the partners to provide whatever was useful in order to understand the role of the citizens and the stakeholders. So finally, we have collected 44 Esmartec regional good practices for behavioral change and awareness raising and for engagement in co-planning. You can see in this map the allocation of the good practices by each region of the project. So we have 10 good practices from the region of Central Macedonia, 5 from the Lazio region, 9 good practices from Bratislava self-governing region, 9 also from the state of Essen, 3 good practices from Venlo region, and 8 good practices from the region of West Midlands. Now, what was, of course, very important for using and promoting and these good practices for the objectives and the targets of the project was to link them with the marketing techniques and methods. So, as one of them, let's say, of the final results and the main tools of our project was exactly to categorize the marketing techniques, the engagement methods in the increasing of awareness, the co-planning, and both the scope. We did the same. We did this assignment, let's say, and this link of the good practices in order to understand in which of these, let's say, categories, in which of these needs, what of these needs were addressed. So what we have created is this library of Esmartec good practices, because for us, for our project, good practices were also tools that can be transferred and used by every region who really needs to plan or to engage the citizens and the stakeholders. So we created this library that, as you can see in the first column, there are all the selected practices with a small description. There is also, we also mentioned if there is a COVID tag, and for some of them there was a strong link with the COVID. Then it was the objectives, the main and the secondary of each practice. And then we allocated each practice also to the each of the 12 steps of the Sustainable Mobility Plan. And of course, afterwards, as I already mentioned, there was the link between the good practice and the main attributes and the relevant features of the marketing techniques and the communication methods. So for each practice, we mentioned the diversity of communication marketing techniques that it answers, and the diversity of the communication methods. Then there is a first tip, let's say, a first weight, I can say, about the cost implication and the easiness to transfer. And of course, you can also see in the last column that it mentions if there is a direct citizens and other stakeholder communication in the specific good practice. This whole procedure is very well mapped and included in the handbook for success tips on marketing techniques. It was one of the main project outputs, and that was, let's say, the main tool, the main manual for us for transforming this knowledge. And to the other, of course, regions, and for formulating the interactive e-training material. Now, the final result of this procedure was exactly to help the sustainable mobility planning, linking also the specific good practices with the sustainable mobility cycle. As you have already seen from the previous table, we have allocated each good practice to the specific step of the sub-cycle. So there, with the mob engage radar of Esmartec, we try to also link all the engagement methods and the best practices with each step of the sub-cycle. And in parallel, you can see that we also mention what is the category of the marketing technique and the engagement method. So for when I'm starting, let's say, to implement my sustainable mobility plan, or when I am in the process of updating this plan, I have a very strong, let's say, and helpful tool in order to see how I can engage my citizens, or I can engage my stakeholders, or even how can I promote and motivate, how can I promote my measures, the measures that I plan to implement or have already implemented, and motivate the citizens to use and to use these measures, or to change mobility habits. By using some of these good practices, and I have all the relevant information on the relevant, let's say, material in order to do so. So this is again one of the main outputs and outcomes of our project. I will end by here by presenting also the partnership of Esmartec, and thus is the last day of our first phase of our project. I would like to thank very much all the consortium members, and I'm quite sure that we will come back again with fruitful results from also the second stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you very much for that wonderful summary of the work done by you and the other partners in phase one. I don't see any questions, but I also think that you gave quite a comprehensive presentation. I would just like to redirect everyone that is watching this, or at some point, that the good practices, examples, and the handbook is all available in our website. Mm-hmm. Right now, you cannot see it, but in all the presentations, you can see it at the bottom, interreg.eu/eSmartec. So if anyone wants to really dig deeper and actually use the materials, you can find them there. So thank you very much, Maria. We are going to then go to our next presentation, which is Eva Malihova from the University of Žilina in Slovenia. She's a researcher there, and unfortunately, she couldn't be with us today, but she was kind enough to record her presentation. So we will play it to you now. Of course, she's not here to answer any questions, but if there were any, we can always redirect them via email, or you can send them to her directly via email, as well as you can see her email on the screen. Okay.
Hello. My name is Eva Malihova and I'm a researcher at the University of Žilina in Slovakia. Today, on behalf of the Bratislava self-governing region, I will present 9 good practices from this region. The first 3 good practices are focused on cycling and its increase in the region. Then I will introduce good practices aiming to create a network for sustainable tourism, promoting e-mobility or new solution in public transport. And the last 3 good practices are not from the transport area, but they have the potential for transferability. The first good practice is called Bratislava Cycle Portal. It is a portal providing information for people interested in recreational or professional cycling in Bratislava region. Originated as a solution to the communication problem between municipalities and cycling communities. The portal contains interactive maps of bike lines. It is possible to download these maps into smartphones or other navigation tools. Also, there is a space where the municipality publishes new information about infrastructure and planned events. The success of this good practice is confirmed by the number of visitors and views of this portal, and this kind of cycle portal was also implemented in other Slovakian regions. The second good practice is focused on the promotion of bike sharing in Bratislava. The objective was to inform people about the new sustainable possibility of traveling in the city, creating a habit for people to use this service and getting feedback for further improvement of the offered new service. The practice involves creating a marketing strategy. As part of the strategy, marketing research has been conducted to investigate the most promising potential customers of this new product, but also massive marketing campaign has been implemented, including, for example, social media coverage such as Facebook or Instagram, competitions, promo videos, and of course bike sharing application. The bike sharing provider also tried to create a habit for users at the beginning by setting the price of renting a bike at only €1. Also, the municipality offered training courses for citizens to cycle safely. The success of the good practice was confirmed by positive citizen perception of the project. The project was launched in September 2018, and by June 2019 around 44,000 users have used this service. Also, the provider company Slovnaft got many awards for the project, such as Smart Head Award or Viabona Award. The success is also confirmed by the ongoing expansion of the station network. The third good practice focuses on cycling, and it's called Venlo. This good practice aims at promoting active transport and sacral tourism by combining them into a single product. The aim was to create added value for potential cyclists, increase their interest in active transport. The product provides possibility to enjoy culture, heritage, and sacred values of the Hungarian-Slovak border region, and combine this experience with the beauties of the natural environment and active leisure time activities. The practice is seen as successful since it has improved the cross-border integration in the region related to economic, tourist, human, transport, and environmental aspects. and also the engaged representative of local government positively perceived the project and its result. The next good practice have been solving the predominance of tourists traveling by car and insufficient cooperation between stakeholders in the regions along Danube. The practice concerned the creation of a network involving actors along the Danube, committed to the promotion of sustainable mobility tourism. The practice included the creation of team experts who identified the potential members of the network and analyzed the current situation of the sustainable mobility along the Danube. Which is interesting, they were traveling by bicycle along Danube and identify problematic sections. For the engagement of the potential network members, the practice deployed engagement techniques such as network seminars, assemblies, CERTHs. Members that participated in the project were awarded the title Danube Pearls, and then sustainable mobility solutions were offered for the tourists to travel between these pearls. As evidence of success, we consider 10 new established information centers, more than 10,000 downloads of app focusing on bike roads, and positive feedback from tourists, locals, business owners, and also public authorities. The fifth practice, called e-goods, establish modern technologies like a mobile app in conjunction with more common marketing channels like public events to promote the use of e-mobility in the Danube regions. It addressed the problem of low use of e-mobility in this region. The mobile application was created within the project. It provides information about the charging infrastructure for e-vehicles in the focus region and help users rent and charge e-bikes. Also, public events in the towns of the Danube region were held to promote the topics of e-mobility and created applications for the citizens who are the biggest beneficiaries of this practice. Thanks to the practice, the public perception of senior citizen has changed in regard to e-mobility. Hundreds of people could try the new e-vehicles, and the new city of Senica received one electric charging station for the public and installed 2 parking spaces for electric cars in the city center. Thanks to all of this, the city Senec became one of e-mobility friendly cities from Slovakia. The sixth good practice provides evidence that changing the tariff system and promoting it can also increase public transport passengers. The good practice's goals was to use marketing channels to increase acceptance of this new unified tariff system applied in Bratislava. The campaign's main idea was easy one tickets purchased for all types of public transport in the region, and this clear message was communicated to the wider audience through online articles published on several different websites. The realization of this project, as well as its the implementation of the project, as well as its promotion, brought improvement of the tariff system of the carrier, increase in the competitiveness and attractiveness of public transport, increase in number of passengers in the improved public transport, but also increase in the revenues of transport companies. As I said at the beginning, now I will present 3 good practices from non-transport areas, but they can be easily used in transport too. This practice focuses on creation of unified image of cross-border destination, providing service in the field of tourism, culture, relaxation, and sport in the area along River Small Danube. A marketing strategy was developed within the project, which contains three main parts: determination of the target markets, product lines, and distribution and communication strategy. The determination of the target markets was based on interest and requirements of visitors. Then two product topics were identified. The first was the bag and the second boat. In each topic, product lines were defined and linked to the target segments, and in part focus on communication, the most important tools were identified according to these target segments. The chosen tools were destination website with the recommender system, websites of stakeholders, social media, Facebook, Pinterest, TripAdvisor, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, mobile marketing also, and different kind of exhibitions and fairs. The main benefit of this project is that Danube Islands became highly recognizable, which results to provision of tourist services, sustainable development of the area, and improved customer services. What can be implemented from this good practice to mobility project focus on promotion is detailed analysis and proposal with the connection to the identified stakeholders and coordination mechanisms for the implementation of the marketing strategy. The objective of the next good practice was to bring new working possibilities to citizens above 50 years old. This objective was fulfilled by the establishment of cross-border cooperation between Slovakia and Hungary, which aimed to attract businesses and organizations that produce products or services to people above the age of 50 and increase also the capacity of these people through training events, which were focused on language, for example, technology or job hunting skills. These opportunities were promoted by articles in local media, through official municipality communication channels, and also exhibits bringing local companies from both countries was organized. The success of the good practice is that over 120 companies took part in the exhibits to introduce their products or possibly hire new employees. This study provides an example of how to connect two main target groups to achieve common growth, and the possibility of introducing companies, organization, new products views to the citizens of other countries. And the last good practice is focused on using multicultural marketing to create new collaboration and open up new opportunities for learning abroad. The goal of the practice was to prepare the students and teachers for European life in the region by promoting and communicating the cultural uniqueness and common traits of the countries in the region. It has been achieved by special training for teachers, but also there were organized workshops, conferences, special multicultural events, and providing possibilities for multicultural visit and information exchange. Evidence of success from this good practice is that the utilization of multicultural marketing and its aspects led to the creation of many collaborating relationships. And what can be transferred from this good practice is to encourage for active meeting between cultures in mobility projects, and finding that proper multicultural cooperation can be created by combining the multicultural aspects with, for example, education, skills, or other aspects. That's all from Bratislava Self-Governing Region. Thank you very much for your attention. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. Goodbye.
Well, Eva is not here, but thank you to her anyways for preparing such a nice summary of the identified practices in the Bratislava region. It's really great to see the evidence of success, which is of the practices. It gives a little bit of optimism into the future. And we go from Slovenia to the Netherlands. I see that Dieter is already here. Dieter Scheppers is a policy advisory for mobility at Venlo Municipality, and he's the coordinator of the e-smartec project there at the region. So I would let him now present the identified measures, good practices in Venlo. So the floor is all yours, Dieter.
Thank you very much. I think you can see the screen now.
Yes.
Okay, super. I'm Dieter Scheppers, Mobility Policy Advisor for the region of Venlo, and I will tell something about the lessons we learned in the phase 1 of the e-smartec project. Venlo is located in the blue banana, they call it. It's a location, the highest concentration of pupil, industry, and money in Europe. And we have three of the biggest challenges for the region is to get more people on the bicycle. We want a health region. So you can see on picture 1 and 2, we want to have more people on the bike and out of the car. We want a sustainable parking policy. Households often have many cars. Sustainable parking policy is necessary to make better use of the public space. And last but not least, sustainable city logistics. In the region, there are not only national and international logistics, but there should be also attention for the local city logistics. Transportal is the name of the Sustainable Mobility Plan, or the SUMP. It was drawn up in cooperation with 8 municipalities in the north of Limburg, where previously mobility policy was mainly based on problem analysis and theoretical framework. Here, completely different approach was chosen, and intensive process of more than 2 years in which 500 stakeholders contributes at various scale, and various techniques were used to contact these stakeholders. And now, a selection of these techniques that were used. First, the card game to prioritize the various objectives. A card game was developed in which various groups of stakeholders were asked to provide insight into which teams should score the highest, and also with concrete ideas there are to achieve these goals. And visual thinking also is important. Visual thinking was used as a technique to map out complex issues together with the stakeholders. Pictures often work better than words, and you can see the results of the visual thinking be at the bottom of the slide. We want to go from A, of a gray zone, of gray region, to B, a green region with sustainable mobility alternatives. And in the middle, the north of region, the north of Limburg was drawn as a testing ground for these mobility alternatives. Next, involving young people, we organized a competition, a win action, which people could win a cargo bike by taking a picture of the bike, giving their vision on the sustainable mobility in the future and posting it on social media. And then we organized a mobility lab with the young children of the primary school, which are the next generation and therefore important for sustainable mobility policy. And they give their vision of the future mobility, and we let them talk about it and play. So we get lots of input by them. What did we learn from e-smartec and the techniques from other regions? So we did a regional online questionnaire to make the north of Limburg future-proof. In order to achieve this goal, we are now carrying out a partial revision of our regional sum. In the original setup of the policy process, to arrive at the revision, we had planned meetings with different stakeholders, and we would involve the 8 municipalities of the north of Limburg closely in the process. Unfortunately, the current health situation forced us to involve citizens in a different way in revision the mobility ambition. Online questionnaire was a good starting point for gathering input. This input was used in the continuation of the process to achieve more depth in the discussions. With lessons learned from e-smartec, we decided to further expand the participation process in enhanced marketing techniques. We did one-on-one interviews with stakeholders and map-based questionnaires among the people of the north of Limburg. The project partners inspired us by doing this and using map-based online questionnaires to enable citizens to express their opinion on topics regarding mobility. And then last, we did some internet panels. The citizens panels meetings had the aim to promote inclusiveness in the debate, a sustainable parking vision by consulting citizens. The main objective was to involve citizens in drafting a new parking vision in the municipality of Venlo in order to create support in the society. In this parking policy plan, we recommend the economical and smart use of public space so that further generation also live, work, and stay in Venlo. And this is the end of my presentation and the things we have learned about in e-smartec in the project.
Hi, Dieter. Thank you very much for that presentation. I find it very interesting to see the usage of social media to involve the youth, because I think that there is a lot of potential there, and also to see how you adapted the participation with COVID-19. Was it like a question, I don't know if there is any question, but just one for me, was it difficult to involve the participants via online? Like, how do you reach out to those that were interested?
Yes, there are lots of channels you can use, but mostly we used just the website of the municipality, but we discovered that mostly the same pupil responds on all the questionnaires, so it's difficult to get more input from different stakeholders, and yeah, mostly it were always the same stakeholders, unfortunately.
Okay, so sorry, you don't think that, do you think that by going from more like a physical consultation to like an online one, you think that it's the same type of stakeholders? So even though potentially this could mean that you could reach to other people that physically you can't, you don't think that it was a difference, that it was almost the same type of stakeholders?
No, I really think you have to get some physical contact with the stakeholders to have a good plan, not only online. Then you just have people who are interested and not everyone. So you have to, yeah, have that physical contact with the stakeholders.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's good to know. I think that there are no other questions at the moment. So then we'll see if anything comes through. In the meantime, thank you very much, Dieter. And we go to our final speaker today, Juliana Pipola. Hello, Juliana. I know that you had some problems. I hope to join in. I hope that everything is good now.
Hi, Laura.
Will you need me to present, or will you present?
Yes, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I'm on my iPad and not on my computer, so I can't share my screen actually with the presentation. It would be helpful if you could do it for me, please.
Not a problem. So I will share the screen for everyone. Juliana Pipola is a business delivery manager working Economic Policy International, and she's currently managing 2 Interreg European projects for the enterprise division of the Coventry University in the United Kingdom. I think that you can all see now the screen, I hope. And the floor
yes,
is...
Yes, I can see it.
Perfect.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes, brilliant. Thank you very much, Laura. Okay, so today I will be reporting on 8 of the good practices that we've come across as part of the e-smartec project. They focus on sustainable mobility and sustainable development. The sectors covered are co-modal, cycle, public transport, alternative working methods, sharing schemes, and electrification. Thank you, Laura. Yes, next slide, which is the KAZI one. So the KAZI project is our first good practice. It was founded by the 7th Framework Programme and lasted 42 months. Its main aim has been to practically investigate the scope of sustainable innovation as a societal phenomenon and actually developed an assessment framework of sustainable innovation practices. The practice is innovative because it consults the public, who then develops a vision or a more sustainable future, and these that then get converted into research priorities. It is pretty much a way for the public to have a say on which research gets funded with public money and also influence their future. But at the same time, it is for a way for decision makers to have an opinion on what is current and future funding priorities. Next slide, please. Coventry Recycling Club, it is a scheme to reward practically residents for recycling. So residents earn points when recycling levels improved in each of the areas of the city. The recycling and the general rubbish collected in each areas are compared to the same ones, to the same levels of the previous year, of the same period in the previous year. So if residents recycle more than the previous year or reduce the amount of the general rubbish, points are earned. In return, the points can be given to a good cause. So each month, 3 good causes are picked and the charity who wins gets £5,000. Next slide, please. Backability. Backability represents a form of cycle training. This is pretty much delivered in primary schools by a team of cycle training team. It is administered by Backability Trust, which is actually a charitable organization aiming to advance the cycling education in the public, especially in young children and future generations. Courses are available through the year in most local authorities in England. Also, adults can be trained individually or as part of groups throughout schools, clubs, and private tutors. Next slide, please. Cycle R, again, is a registered charity. They recycle donated bikes and they provide training, qualifications and work experience to long-term unemployed people and to also to young groups with the aim of getting them back to work. They also provide low-cost, high-quality refurbished bikes to low-income families and people who actually need them, and they therefore sort of encourage cycling as a sport. The project is funded by the National Lottery Community Fund and the European Union through the European Social Fund. Next slide, please. Go Electric Taxi is a scheme to encourage taxi cab drivers to move to electric vehicles. The scheme is run by Coventry City Council and is funded by money from the Office of Low Emission Vehicles. The scheme includes a range of different incentives worth £2,500 for the taxi drivers who are interested in making the switch to cleaner vehicles and mostly to electric vehicles, and as well as the opportunity for them to have a 2 weeks test drive on the new vehicles. Next slide, please. So this Greening Your Fleet is practically an event that has been providing information about funding opportunities for businesses looking to practically reduce carbon and save energy. It was attended by 35 companies and organizations, and the aim of the event was to transform fleet driver behavior by providing information about funding opportunities, vehicle options for businesses, mostly new green vehicles, a couple of apps that were linked to practically green technologies and electric vehicles in general. Next slide, please. So suits aim to increase the capacity of local authorities to develop and implement sustainable, inclusive, integrating and accessible transport. Pretty much the project produces and provides to small and medium-sized cities a set of tools on planning, on financing, and also on implementing sustainable transport measures, and supports the enhancement of the capacity of 9 cities in 7 countries. This is done with the objective to address efficiently the new challenges of urban mobility, but at the same time to foster investment in sustainable transport. Next slide, please. Coventry University Enterprises location independent working is a scheme designed to enable staff to work outside of the office with the objective to help improve work-life balance, productivity and absenteeism. Next slide, please. The scheme offered employees an opportunity to work from an alternative location other than the office, including the ability to work from home and reduce occupancy of the innovation center. The objectives are practically to allow employees the flexibility of working outside pretty much the standard office. It was also to raise income generations in terms of profitability for the organization, assist employees in meeting customers' needs in their requirements outside the standard working hours, and also becoming a more attractive employer. Next slide, please. The results were practically increased capacity, space efficiency, reduced the organization carbon footprint. 2/3 of the employees reported an increase in productivity over the previous rates. Cost per employee has been halved, going from £6,000 per annum to £3,000 per annum. Next slide, please. At the same time, there was obviously an improvement in work-life balance for the employees, improvement in confidence and motivation for some of the members of the staff, reduce absences, sickness, reduce the company's occupancy of office space. So that pushed the rental costs up, well, down for the employees and up actually for the organization. So there was also an increased revenue of the amount of rentable space that was available to other companies to rent within our office premises, and also drive the company to a more IT-enabled environment. Next slide, please. Finally, it was about, there was a reduction in commuting time and also cost for all of the people that sort of came on board with the LIW, reduced the demand for car parking facilities, reduced the traffic flow in the region, enhance the reputation of Coventry University as an employer, and retain and recruit high quality staff because they were pushed and pulled towards the sort of remote working arrangements. And finally, it was about empowering members of the staff to control their own working week. Next slide, please. That is all for me. I don't know if anybody's got any questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Juliana. I don't see any questions, but I do have one, and we have a couple of minutes for it. So thank you very much for this very nice presentation. I have a question about the location independent working. We saw already with the previous presentations a concrete mention of the COVID-19, and I just wanted to know if this has been impacted by the pandemic, and if so, how? I guess maybe more people took up for it.
Yes, well, as a university, we had to move all of our operations remotely. And even now, we are in a hybrid situation between face-to-face meetings and working from home. Our organization is actually now in the process of drafting a new policy called Agile Working, which is sort of an evolvement of the LIW. So this is in drafting process at the moment, and will retain some elements of the LIW scheme, but also will bring some further innovations. Because it is a drafting stage, we're not able to disclose any further details, but yes, there has definitely been an impact from a COVID perspective, but yeah, at the moment, what we're expecting is a new agile working arrangement, which we will be sort of signing in the next few months as employees within the organization. So we'll probably be able to keep you posted on that in the future.
Thank you, Juliana. That's very interesting, and I'm sure also very helpful for everyone working there. I think it's fantastic that so many organizations are, well, I think that the conditions are forcing us, but that still many organizations are trying to put this innovation as part of their everyday life, and not only while the pandemic is going on. So I think that's great. Well, I don't see any more questions, but it's also almost 12, which means that we are reaching the ending of our webinar. We just had today a 1-hour presentation of our latest results, but I want to remind everyone that we have the second webinar taking place on Wednesday at the same time from 11 to 12. And in this case, we will be discussing the capacity building activities that took place during phase 1 of the project. So you cannot miss it. Thank you again to all of our speakers and everyone else. And I hope that you all have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much also. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Bye.